to the Save Our Sperrins podcast, Voices from the Frontline. In this episode, I'm joined by someone whose voice brings both calm and clarity to what can often feel like a noisy, divided world. Dr Louise Taylor is a member of our Save Our Sperrins committee, a woman from the Unionist community and a deeply thoughtful advocate of nature-based healing. She holds a PhD in politics and has spent much of her life exploring the relationship between the natural world and mental health. In a campaign that has too often been misrepresented as belonging to one side of the community, Louise's presence is not just powerful, it's a reminder that nature knows no borders and that the land, air, and water are part of us all. We talk about her early connections to the Sperrins, her academic work in eco-psychology and ecofeminism, and what drew her to stand up and speak out for this place, despite the social pressures and assumptions that might have told her to stay quiet. Welcome, Dr. Louise Taylor. Good afternoon, Louise. And maybe we will start by you telling us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what the Sperrins might mean to you personally.
It's lovely to be here, and my name's Louise Taylor, and I was born, I suppose, in the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast, but my parents both from Belfast. They're from Rathkill in East Belfast, and they moved when I was very young to Cookstown. Dad got a job as a GP in a general practice in Cookstown, and I was brought up out the Tullywigan Road for a few years, near Mid Ulster Sports Arena now. Wasn't there, that didn't exist then, and then out the Moneymore Road. I ended up being a bit of a country girl, even though city parents, and just spent a lot of time roaming the fields round near the County Derry, like our house is actually a few metres away from the County Derry board boundary, and just used to spend a lot of time wandering the fields and riding ponies, and very privileged, middle class upbringing, and so that's where I'm from. Lived away for a long time. At 18 went to Manchester to study, lived in Japan, lived in America, travelled, and lived in Brighton for a good few years, and then but my heart, I was always homesick, but my heart, I wanted to come back, I wanted to come home. And I came back in 2014 with my kids. And the Sperrins, I'm going to be honest, growing up, my parents, Belfast, they were city. they were about the city. So a lot of the time we'd be, nature-wise, my mum might take us to Portchurch Strand on a good day. And she's not that into nature. My dad appreciates, would have been into fishing, would have done a bit of shooting, would have spent time that way with regards to those sports. But I think he enjoys bird watching and different things now, but they didn't have this strong affinity or a strong connection with nature, and we wouldn't have spent time in the Sperrin Mountains. I would have been aware of them. Maybe in P7 would have done a field trip about rivers and different things with school. And that would have been about the height of it. But when I returned and became more interested in nature as a form of therapy and nature as a form of, staying well, I became independently as an adult. I developed my own relationship with the Sperrin Mountains and with a lot more nature spaces, but it wasn't something that I wasn't very connected as a child.
Was there a moment, Louise, when you realised that this landscape of the Sperrins wasn't just scenery, but something that you felt responsible for?
Have you ever heard of the term solastalgia?
Yes.
Solastalgia is such a beautiful, poignant, melancholic, really, and that's how I can describe how I was homesick and I returned in 2014. And the more and more I connected with the natural world, and the more I spent time with it, I it's the development. It was the rapidness of the development that I noticed with regards to. I just noticed the size of the cars, the size of the houses. I noticed the industrial estates, and I noticed like the wind turbine, like the wind turbines were flying up, and it was, yes, they were talking about development, or yes, I could feel that things had been, and it had been really, really intensified. Even the farming, So I used to roam the lanes, the countryside as a child, like, exploring in hedges, gathering frog spawn, just really like able to nip in and out of farmers' fields and stuff, and being chased by them. But also, it was fun. You couldn't do that. No, you can't. That's far too deep. So I became aware. This solastalgia, I was like, this is really sad. There's a sadness I felt about the lack of regard for the pace that everything had intensified, consumerism. It was like, it was post Good Friday Agreement, but something felt really off. And that was whenever, I suppose, when I was researching and spending a lot of time driving around and got to really know the Sperrins more. I kind of was like, why can we not access this as easily as, say, the Morns? Or why is there not more walking spaces? Why, it just seemed really cut off. And for me, I felt that there was a real sadness that we were being alienated from these spaces. And then whenever you first heard of the plans, I just thought they were absurd. But you can see that we have maybe lost our way in terms of our respect for traditional ways and our respect for the countryside, and it just seems like a frenzy to make money. And that's what I kind of noticed. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it most certainly does. And just for our listeners' sake, let's clarify solastalgia. So for me, it means sort of a sadness around this feeling of sense of place. Would you like to expand on that, or is that your understanding of it?
It's like a homesickness when you're at home.
Okay.
They talk about it, and it's like Earth Emotions is beautiful text. It's like it's giving these feelings of there's something's not quite right, or there's something's a little bit off. So it's a homesickness at home, and it's like it kind of talks about displacement, and you'll notice that in farming communities or places where they can no longer maybe farm the way that they did, or they can no longer relate to the land the way they did because it's being taken over. So it's a feeling of homesickness at home.
Brilliant. That's great description of it. So, moving on. If you were to close your eyes right now, is there a particular place or moment in nature that lives vividly inside you?
There'll be a few. I'm very, very, I call it a spiritual power place. Anytime I really need guidance or support, and I haven't been actually for a while, but I know I'll go soon. It's White Park Bay. So a lot of times when I go there, I find heart-shaped stones, but I'd also rainbows.
Okay.
So there'll be times where I'm like, okay, I call it my church or whatever, and I remember driving there during the night for sunrise, and just the sun breaking through the clouds, and it was just pure beauty, bliss, serenity. But there have been so many beautiful moments, even up the caravans there, being all around there. When you go up there and you walk around there, I've seen foxes and hares and just beauty and butterflies. I remember driving up to the GPO once, and just the number of butterflies that were flying around, and it's just beautiful. And then just the little tufts, whenever you see, I think that's the secret though, whenever you are in awe of things like that.
It's funny how these moments stay with us and strike such a deep chord within us, isn't it? I have those. I have places in my own past where I can, in an instant, I'm back there. I was brought up learning how to swim in the local river, And I can transport myself back there in one instant. I can see the darkness of the water, the trees overgrowing the river, and walking in and feel the coolness and the brownness of the water, you know. So it just sticks with me. So yeah, I really get it. Your PhD work explored the link between nature and mental health. Can you tell us a bit about that work and what drew you to the topic?
Basically, it drew me because I had I was doing a counselling qualification, and my health, I got really worrying blood results a few years ago. It was not long after I'd returned, and I made a commitment to really reclaim my health. And one of the things I started doing was walking the dogs. You know, I was doing 10,000 to 15,000 steps a day, walking the dogs, and I went around, just started going around local forests. And I had been walking, there's a treadmill, but I noticed there was a big difference if I was walking in a built up, or, I don't like gyms, but using that rather than in an open space. And I was just curious, and I was obsessed with learning. I was constantly doing courses, so I was like, right, I'm gonna apply and see if I can get a PhD, and hopefully not keep doing courses for the rest of my life, and maybe this will be the end. I got funding to explore the relationship between nature and mental health, and I cannot articulate enough how much that PhD changed my life. And not all, like, it had a devastating impact. It changed everything, but powerful, but it did there a lot. I lost a lot, but I also gained a lot. Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I was looking for. And then, just to further deepen that question, did it change the way you relate to nature yourself, or did it affirm something you always felt?
It changed everything. Once you know, you can't unknow. That's the thing with consciousness shifts. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Sometimes I wish I could go back to pre-PhD, where I didn't know as much as I know now. So I remember, like, grandparents be saying, "You're too smart for your own good." I'd be like, yeah, I 100% believe. Be careful what you wish for. And what happened during that project was, that's when ecological grief, that's when I started opening up. That's when I became really aware of the climate and ecological crisis, and I became aware of what we were losing and what was at risk.
How do you see the importance of nature for community well-being, not just for individuals, but collectively?
So important. It's so important, and you can see that in Lough Neagh, the Lough Neagh campaign. Like, it's the link between ecological health and public health is absolute. So if you're not protecting your environment, like, what your health, it's going to compromise your health. So, and also,
can you think of a time when that connection played out, when a group or community found healing through being in nature?
Group or community find healing through being in nature? Yeah.
Maybe a better way to rephrase it would be, there's plenty of examples of communities where there is no healing going on because of lack of access to nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that doesn't, it's all around us. We can see it in local villages, towns, whatever, where there's just no access to nature.
No, there's no access to nature, and that alienation, that loss. Yeah, but that's it. This is where we're looking at nature spaces. Having nature spaces and having access to nature is like a form of privilege.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. Do you want to say more about that?
Well, the Sandy Row comes to mind straight away. There's no nature spaces around there.
Yeah.
And the air quality, the quality, it's a very impoverished, deprived area. There's a lack of nature spaces for a lot of people.
Yeah.
In Northern Ireland, like, it isn't being treated as it's a human right, or it should be. You should be able to connect with high quality nature spaces, but they don't. That's not prioritized here. Profit and buying, being able to buy your own spaces is kind of considered where you should be. It's kind of, people are made to feel like it's their fault if they don't have these privileges.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think collectively we need to work on that, because once you've got access to healthy soil, healthy water, and places out in nature, it changes the vibration. For me, it changes the vibration. And and when people don't have access to that, there's a disconnect. They become disconnected from themselves, they become disconnected from the community, and they can become disconnected to the whole universe, you might say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not even anywhere near their way of thinking. If they're say if you're thinking, how, this is where the environmental movement's often criticised as being very elitist.
Middle class, yeah. For sure.
We're morally superior, we know best.
Yeah.
Whereas the people are just trying to get by, and they're not thinking about the more than human world or the non-human world. They're just thinking, what about, where's my house?
Yeah.
Where's my next meal? Where's my job? I've no job.
That's right.
So
they're in survival mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whereas and that's where I think that's why grassroots action is where it at, and this is where at this time the people who are most vulnerable are those with the least.
Yeah. As always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are going to be screwed over.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you've spoken or mentioned more than the human world once or twice. Could you explain briefly what that means and why it matters?
The more than human world?
Yeah.
I think of it as life. What's living? And so humans anthropocentric, they use those words like, humans will often project what they think of things or what they think is happening for things, onto like pets or different things. So the more than human is moving from just thinking about in terms of human living and what we can get, and it's moving into understanding ecosystems and the biosphere and how we are placed amongst other living systems, so the more than human is exactly, there's humans, yes, but the way our systems and different things work, we've all been prioritized. What about these other species? And where are they in this living system? But also, how important are they to our health? So you have like is a keystone species, and you have different species. Once you lose them and different things, you're seeing that this ecosystem or this system is about to collapse. So you've seen that with Loch Ness, like the Loch Ness fly. That the 2023, the lack of Loch Ness fly was the first sign that the eel industry was in a very, very dodgy place. Not only that, with the dwindling numbers, of course, but once the food supply and the food chain's gone off, all bets are off. And that's where the more than human world, it's not just a source of joy or comfort or pets or stuff. We have our place amongst this, amongst all of these living systems and these different species. And what does the rapid decline of many species represent for us?
It opens up so much, doesn't it? And it changes how we walk through the world.
Yeah, the more than human. Yeah. I wrote a poem actually called Wasps in December. And I remember I was lying in December and I saw a wasp in my room. And it wasn't because it was just like ho ho ho, I was thinking Santa, and like I was just thinking, wow, we're in a time where everything's going to be back to front a bit, and how are we going to adapt? How are we going? Because the more than human world is about, it's about life. It's all about living, but it's looking at the quality of life. And I remember there's different signs I get whenever I'm connected with it. I'm like, that's sign. It's not ominous. It didn't scare me. but it was a sign that things are definitely off kilter and we've got big changes ahead, because the wasps, they're in accordance with the temperature and all, and not our man-made structures. And I remember thinking, wow, this is going to be a real time of massive climate transformation.
Impact. Yeah. You don't happen to remember the poem off the top of your head?
Wasn't it? No.
No.
No, I don't think it's my best work,
Oh.
but it was a play on words.
We'll maybe get it off you and put it in the show
Yeah.
notes later. How about that?
Yeah.
So you're an advocate of ecotherapy and ecofeminism, and some listeners may not be familiar with these. How would you describe them briefly in everyday terms?
Ecotherapy, well, therapy is about helping and healing, so it's using the eco, the known or more than human world, or the environment, to help people heal and move on or process different things. That's incredible. That therapy, it's very powerful because nature's holding the space in such an incredible way. So that's ecotherapy. Ecofeminism. Oh, people, the dirty word, feminism, isn't it? To me, it's equity, it's love, it's truth, it's wisdom. It's beauty. Ecofeminism's hard to articulate because feminism's been on such an incredible journey, but it keeps changing, and that's like a sign of strength. But it's hard for people to keep up. So often they think of the 1970s, feminist. But no, I'm an intersectional ecofeminist, which is not often the easiest thing. But at the heart of it is equity and justice.
And how have these ideas helped you navigate the world, especially when it comes to speaking up for what matters?
They make sense to me, but they can be alienating because there's not very many people who think the way I do or agree with what I stand for. But they've helped me become more clear on who I am and what my intentions are and what I believe in. But it's lonely. It's definitely lonely being an intersectional ecofeminist in the Bible Belt of Cookstown. Like, I was thinking about Arlene Foster a few years ago. I remember her saying, you cannot be a unionist in a united Ireland. And I was thinking, I can be an intersectional ecofeminist in Mid-Ulster. You can be anything, but yes, it's something I really believe in. It makes sense to me, but I understand it's not the way many people think.
So in your experience, how can engaging with nature help bridge divides in society?
I think it transcends. If you look at a lot of the problems in the north, the occupied 6 counties, Northern Ireland, Ulster, and the identity politics that have played out, and sectarianism, and the history of this troubled place. Nature, connection with nature and love of nature transcends everything else. So it just, to me, is very unifying, and it makes sense because nearly everybody you meet wants the best for their children or the future generations. They want their children to be healthy. They want them to be happy. They want them to succeed. And the environmental, or connecting with nature, or caring, or placing the environment as a priority, everybody wins if we succeed in achieving that. So it's transcending all these other ethno-religious, ethno-political divides, and it just makes sense.
Okay. As someone from a unionist background, what would you say to others who might feel unsure about joining in, or who may think this campaign is not for them? And sometimes I get the feeling that folk from unionist background in Northern Ireland also don't put their heads above the parapet, to use an awful phrase.
Yes.
And how would you address that?
Well, it costs you a lot, especially as a woman. Um, yeah, there's a lot of social policing. There's a lot of very I would say that, like, but then I was middle class, but it was very, and my parents would have been seen as quite progressive in a way, but they're very conservative, so very conservative in their views. I'm the only child out of five who lives here. The rest left, and they're very traditional GPs or teacher, engineer. So I took a very alternative route, and it wasn't popular, and it wasn't really supported. I had to follow my heart. I had to do what I believed was true. But yeah, I do think the community I was born into are not good with change, and they're not good with alternative. They're not. They're maybe I can see some changes, but it can be difficult. But what I would say to people who want to get involved, that you're more than welcome, you know, and you're not alone, and that people have done it before. Like, I would have got some kickback. I've definitely stood up to my community on other issues, and it has cost me. But then I think you've got it in you or you're not. So can I sleep easier? Do I think it's the right thing to do? Absolutely. But I do see, and I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of social policing. That is a difficult community, and they are not. They don't, like, I would have had people in my area, who say, oh, they're going to call you crazy and da da da, and men with so little education, a lot of privilege, trying to hold me back and stop me doing what I believe is the right thing to do. Just got to stand your ground. And there was another thing I'd like to talk about is I've been involved in an all-island um, discussions about constitutional change, right? And one of the reasons, like, I tick the boxes because of the background I'm from. But they wanted me, and it was from UCD. It wasn't Queen's, actually, it was UCD. And we turned up, and there was two meetings in Mid-Ulster, one in Longford and one in Mayo. And it was about women's issues. And I went round and met so many women, and I went around my neighbourhood, and I went around to different groups, so many women from the community I was born into, and I was like, please come on, we need we need to talk about these matters. And they were interested, and they knew it was important, but could you get them into the room? Could you get them into the room to have these discussions? And I think they're being failed. I think a lot of people, they think that their silence is helping them. Actually, whether they like it or not, change is coming. Unionists, I do believe, unionists have a very, very strong minority. If they're, when they talk about in New Ireland, they're very, very powerful. But they must start talking about these issues now. But they're not. I'm one of the only token big mouths from my community, but I'm not. I don't think I'm very representative of that community because I'm an outspoken feminist woman.
Okay, that's really interesting. So Save Our Sperrins, by its nature, is based in Greencastle because that's where the planning application came in from, traditionally associated with the nationalist area. How have your experiences been working with a community that perhaps you might have never worked with before, and in relation to the campaign?
Save Our Sperrins, I loved it. I've absolutely loved it. I felt like really included, accepted. The way they run their campaign too, and they're just slick because it's all about this is our purpose. This is what we're about, and it's bigger than what's happened in the past or where you were born into or what it's about. If you're wanting to protect an area of outstanding natural beauty from mass exploitation and and from pollution and harm, well, yeah, it's a brilliant campaign to be involved in. I really enjoyed my experiences with Save Our Sperrins.
Thank you, Louise. Moving on, how did you first come across them, and what made you want to get involved?
I was trying to think about this earlier, right? So just celebrated 10 years. So it was 2015. I was moved here, so I think I started to hear my ex-husband. He maybe mentioned it because he was Mid-Ulster Greens, and then I was doing other thing, and but I do remember seeing Fidelma and being very impressed. I remember just thinking Vanilla was wow. But then I think I went to Anne Craigan event 2018. 2018, Anne Craigan, the remember Standing Rock?
Oh yeah, oh yes.
I was at that
I was
one.
at that too. So.
But I wasn't really that involved. I was a bit shy and nervous. People don't think I'm shy. I talk a lot, but I am quite actually introverted. I do like to not always be the big mouth at the front. But I did enjoy that. I thought that was amazing. And then I think I got more involved in politics whenever I was doing PhD, and then I was getting more involved definitely 2020, 2021.
So was it a hard decision to step forward, and what did you weigh up internally before saying yes?
Was it a hard
Either back then or in 2021 when you got more involved?
I don't think it felt like that hard. It just felt like maybe a bit awkward at times, like the a bit odd. I was a wee bit, eccentric or odd. And they're like, so I just didn't know what my place was or what to do, and so it wasn't hard, but you just have to find your way and find your place, and that came actually with people asking me to do things, and I really appreciated that. I liked being involved and helping out, and that's what I want to help out. But they're so established and they know what they're doing, so I'm like, right, you tell me what you want.
That's such a thoughtful answer. I imagine there's many people who resonate with that sense of hesitation, and care, including myself when I started as well.
Yeah,
because you just don't know where you are or what you're doing.
No, you don't. There's no blueprint.
Nope, there is no template.
So you're winging it.
Precisely.
And it's awkward, and you do. But the thing is, it's okay to make mistakes.
It is, yeah, and we learn from mistakes, and we've all made them in the campaign over and over again, But we've grown because of that.
Absolutely.
What would you say to someone who feels that to care publicly might mean stepping outside what's expected of them?
Absolutely. I remember my eldest child saying to me, "Mum, you're not crazy, but it is crazy how much you care."
Yeah.
And that's an activist heart, I think. You can't not.
You can't.
And it's, there's that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And sometimes people can make it, I think sometimes we make it look easy. I do think the campaign and a lot of the campaigners make it look easy. So, and I do remember this in 2018, one of my friends, very good environmentalist, said, I went up to their office and they are all over it, so I didn't feel like they really need it. They're on top of this, they got this. And I do think there is a danger in that. And that people are like, you're so good. No, the campaign's very, very well organized. It's very good, but we need that support. We need people coming in and saying like, what can I do? Or do you need any help? And then having as many people as possible. So that would be one of the things. I think sometimes people will look, oh, but they're doing it. They've got it.
Yeah.
And then hesitate to get involved. But
that's insightful. I never really thought of it from that point of view, that people see us as being so professional, so organized, that there's no place for them in it. What do you think we lose as a people or as a culture if we allow places like the Sperrins to be industrialized or destroyed?
We lose. The word that's coming to mind is opportunity. A real amazing opportunity to do other things, to create a much better future. We lose so much when we just disrespect these natural spaces and our natural resources in this way. Our infrastructure, our water infrastructure cannot cope at the minute. How the hell is it going to cope with these industries? Yeah, it cannot cope.
Robbing the existing water supplies.
Absolutely, and it's so water intensive, and it's It just feels the north is a sacrifice zone. So it's all now, it's all about what we're doing now and getting people involved. And I do think we can keep them out, but it's like it is a sacrifice zone. I do think it's all about profit. It's all about, and that's what this is about. It's about, gold mining is about profit. If you think it's anything else, you need to check yourself.
So you mentioned there, referring to the north as a sacrifice zone. My feeling is really it's the northwest of the island of Ireland has become a sacrifice zone, not only for the UK but also for the EU. Yes. Would you agree with that in relation to the industrialisation of the uplands and in relation to all the mineral extractivism that's going on, and perhaps the possibility of Amazon and some of those big corporate companies building their data centres up in Letterkenny and places? It seems to be all coming our way. And what do you feel about that?
Northwest, I think the reason I'd say the north, the whole of the north then, right, is because of No Gas Caverns campaign, some of the campaigns in the east. Yeah. Also, just the issues that are impacting, like Lough Neagh, that water source is for mostly Belfast.
Yeah, I think what I was really trying to say, it actually includes the North of Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. It's
Absolutely.
Not just, yeah.
Oh, sure, Donegal. They've no, the Republic, and this is it, like, Donegal is so failed. It's been so badly failed, but that's what's exciting too. This is exciting about the transboundary and the organising of these campaigns and people coming together. But yeah, I think it's a sacrifice zone. But the sacrifice zone standing up, the sacrifice zones, that's where organising and trying to organise and go, no, we're not going to be. You're not going to just remove our rights. You're not going to just do this without some resistance. But yeah, I 100%. But I do think it's the whole, the whole of the north of Ireland. But yeah, all of it. It's maybe the northwest. It's more mineral extractivism, but the sacrifice zones too. It's not just the minerals and extractivism. It's also looking at the neglect and the governmental dysfunction.
Lack of infrastructure.
A lack of infrastructure. So you're looking at Lough Neagh. I think a tipping point's been passed for that. That's one of the worst things that in our lifetime that we've ever seen with Lough Neagh.
Save Our Sperrins is always put at the heart of what they do: clean air, clean water, and clean soils. Mm-hmm. And that's something, a commonality that every person wants for themselves, for their families, and for future generations. So the Northwest becoming an area of a sacrifice zone means that it fundamentally crosses borders, or the Northwest, and that really we can't just, like, okay, there is the Save Our Sperrins project, but there are also other massive big projects coming down the pipeline, to use a phrase, that we fundamentally can't ignore, because it will affect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil that we grow our food on. Is there anything you would add to that?
What I've noticed the more I do the all island work, right, is that the Republic is an economic powerhouse. The 6 counties are like the poster child of dysfunction, right? Right? But there's no hiding it. Like, we are a dysfunctional failed experiment of a country. Nobody's looking to Northern Ireland going, how's that government work? Let's copy that.
Yeah.
Right? But when you talk to the people in the Republic, they're suffering. They're scared. There's a lack of housing. There's a lack of, ecologically, they're a disaster. So we've got to, when we're thinking about the future of this island, the shared island, we've got to start thinking about, well, how come this economic powerhouse is failing its people? This poster child of political dysfunction, it doesn't seem there's much in it in terms of the quality of life.
Yeah.
It seems that it's failing everybody. And that's why I think we've got to look at the economic model, and we've got to look at countries like Luxembourg. We've got to look at countries like Bhutan. We've got to look at different ways of thinking about what a collective bright future would be like, because at the minute our air is not being respected in either. Our water is not, and our soil's in a terrible mess all over the island.
That's really a great point to wrap that particular question up because that's what comes down to, our common concern. And we can deviate on either side from it, but our common concern is clean air, clean water, and clean soil.
And where is it in Ireland?
Yeah. Looking forward, what gives you hope right now?
So what gives me hope right now? It's a difficult time for many, I think, to stay hopeful. Especially when, genocide is being live streamed and our Loch Ness is the way it is, and things seem very dysfunctional. But what gives me hope are people, our grassroots campaigns, and people coming together and taking a stand. Save Our Sperrins gives me hope. Campaigns like Save Our Sperrins just celebrated 10 years. And when you look back at the photos and the images and how, yes, it's a very serious campaign and there's a lot to lose, but oh my God, there was so much joy, so much fun to be had. Like, there's so many good memories. And that, John Barry talks about, like, resistance is fertile. Resist. But it can be beautiful. It can be really good fun. There can be a lot of joy. So there's resistance. The resistance I'm seeing on the island of Ireland, particularly with regards to Palestine and Gaza, is giving me hope. But Save Our Sperrins and the grassroots campaigns, and not just the Save Our Sperrins, like different environmental campaigns, they give me huge hope.
That's great. I love that sort of the unexpected joy or connection when we stand shoulder to shoulders with others that perhaps you might never have had the possibility of meeting.
And the things we've done, like
yeah,
like walking through the streets of Dublin, Power to the People, like that's just beautiful. Like and people were loving it.
How do you hold on to hope when things feel overwhelming or stuck?
How do you hold on?
Yeah, you personally.
Sometimes, right, there's some things I have hope about, but there's sometimes it's good to, like, and this might sound contradictory, right? But bear with me. Sometimes with some things, it's good to park hope. It's good to acknowledge where there's no hope here, or there's no, and it's good to not always just cling desperately onto every grain of hope, right? But with regards to what gives me hope about the future, community, finding more people who are into the different things that you are. I think it's okay to at times think there's no hope here, or I can't deal with this today. Well, then take a break, have a rest, and recharge. The future's up for grabs. That gives me hope.
Hope's such a steadying thing, isn't it? At times.
It can be. Hope gives you active hope. Or you think of Joanna Macy? Yeah, it's steadying.
Yeah,
steadying.
And hearing where you find it is sort of gives other people, an opportunity to say, oh yeah, well maybe she can find it there. I can find hope in it too.
But you see, with the other thing about hope is beautiful. Yeah, hope is very, very important. But it can also break your heart. But feel it. Allow it to break your heart. And that's where Joanna Macy talked about, and keep opening that, and keep walking. I think it's more never give up. If you have a vision, never give up.
Yeah.
Just keep going. You can pause, you can stop, you can have a good cry.
Yeah.
You can curse the world for a while, you can have a bad day. But just don't stop. You can slow down though.
Yeah. So a man was released from a prison in Lebanon this week, and he'd spent 46 years of his life objecting against the Israelis taking over bits of Lebanon. I think he was in prison in France, and he came out of the prison and he held up the Palestinian flag, and he never stopped. He never stopped with his
true.
Yeah, he never stopped.
True, and he was like, because he was like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes at a cost. It can come at a cost, but then it's like Mandela coming out of prison too.
Yeah.
It's like, if you know who you are and you know what you're about, it doesn't make sense to live any other way.
That's it. How's being part of Save Our Sperrins affected you personally? And what would you say to someone listening who's sitting on the fence about getting involved?
Save Our Sperrins is good been a lovely experience. It's been such a positive experience for me. I've really enjoyed it. I would say get involved. It's welcome. It's a really it's lovely. It's a lovely campaign. That's like honestly, how has it cost me personally? Well, I don't really
affected you personally, not really costed, made
affected me. It was just really. It's been a pleasure to be connected and involved with it. It really has.
Yeah.
It hasn't been to me. There haven't. It's been something that's enriched my life. It's been great to meet loads of different people, and it's been inspiring. It's been inspiring.
If there was one thing you wish more people understood about it, not just the campaign, but what it feels like to be part of it, what would you say? Just one thing.
It's a true collective. It's a sometimes things start as a collective and they don't really work out, and power dynamics come into it. It's a very true, good works well collective of people. So that's I think people would enjoy being involved and enjoy using their time to do something like this. Save Our Sperrins is for all of us.
And that brings an end to our conversation this evening, Louise. Thank you, Louise Taylor. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you today. I'm thrilled that we invited you. Looking forward to working with you for many years into the future.
Can't get rid of me.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you.
That was Dr. Louise Taylor, academic, nature lover, committee member, and bridge builder. I'm so grateful to Louise for sharing her story, not just because it brings nuance and depth to our campaign, but because it opens the doors wide for others to join us, especially those who may have felt unsure or unwelcome before. If you've ever wondered where this campaign is for you, I hope this conversation made it clear. It is, it always has been. We are united by something much deeper than party politics, by our love for the Sperrins and our shared belief that some things are far too precious to sacrifice. Thanks for listening, and if you'd like to get involved, share this episode or simply start a conversation with someone new. That's where change begins. Until next time, take care, keep listening to the land and to each other.